This video is made possible by our loyal Patreon supporters. Visit patreon.com/Psychetruth.
Hey y'all, my name is Tessa and we are going to be doing a massage video for you today. I'll be working on Karina's back, and I think we're just going to do the whole back, something a little more relaxing with maybe some deeper work depending on how things feel. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And to start, I like to do longer, more relaxing movements. Just making sure that the lotion gets dispersed and just feels really nice. When I feel like I'm at the point where my hands can glide, then I'll start to just get into these muscles a little bit. I more often than not do more clinical type massage work where I'm like very focused on chronic back pain or whatever it is, but I definitely have clients and a husband who just likes, getting a nice relaxing massage. And working these muscles along the spine usually feels really, really nice. Sometimes if someone is a little bit ticklish, applying a little more pressure is more helpful than less. And when I get to the top of the shoulders, I'll actually press the base of my, towards the top of my hand and move into these levator muscles a little bit. And it's not uncommon for them to feel a little bit crunchy. And going in with nice soft fist. Nice way to apply a little more pressure, but it still feels pretty relaxing. And working my way over the SI joints more gently. And again, as I work my way up, moving into the levators a little bit more, just starting to work on them a little bit. And working my way into the neck a little bit, working up with my fingers. I'm going to start working with my forearms and my elbows a little bit. So I'm just going to get some lotion. And this is one of my favorite moves to do on clients. You can just bring your elbows on each side of the spine. Start working your way down. And back up. And just be careful that you don't run your elbow on the spine, because that definitely hurts. Just paying attention. If your client is someone that wants deeper work, you can start to apply a little more pressure. As someone that is giving the massage, just make sure that you're bending your knees, you're working from your core more, because if you're trying to do this just by pressing your elbows, then you're gonna get tired really fast. And you don't want to do this too many times, but as much as feels good and right. And I am going to work my way down the back with my forearm. I love using my forearm for back work. And working my way into the hips, into the low back a little bit. And not just putting all my weight in at once. I'm really listening to Karina's body and how she's responding to everything. So starting light and then moving in deeper. And I'm not doing trigger point here, I'm just doing some a little more detailed work. Just really small movements. And trying to work from my core as much as possible. And finally, sometimes I'll isolate the glutes a little bit, and then with my opposite elbow, I will work my way up along the spine. It can get a little bit ticklish. Just kind of check in with your client. So I'm pressing slightly with my right elbow into the glute, just kind of isolating and stretching out the spine a little bit as I work. If someone is ticklish or just really, really tight, a really nice way to work these muscles along the spine is to just have a broader surface that you're working with. And a perfect way to do that is pressing the whole forearm down. And you're gonna have to kind of change things up once you get closer to the scapula. But this is a perfect place along the spine to just go nice and slow. And also, if your client is feeling anxious, with someone face down and applying just a steady, slow pressure can be very calming. And what I'm starting to do is I'm going to start angling my forearm a little more, working more into my elbow, getting a little more detailed with my work. And just working my way into the rhomboids a little bit, and eventually into that scapula. So I have moved from applying pressure with my whole forearm to basically my elbow and just below that. I love working the back with my elbow and my forearm. I just have so much more endurance when I work like this. And just listening to the muscles and how they're responding. I'm going to start doing a little bit more trigger point. So just holding for maybe 10 seconds, 10 or 15 seconds. Working my way down. And it can be a little bit awkward as a therapist to like have good posture when you're doing forearm work. I just do the best I can. And I don't like to linger super long in any area that feels really tight. I like to go back and forth. So I'm going to spend a little more time just moving along the bigger muscles along the spine. And again, if somebody is feeling a little, anxious, this is a great way to just work. And going extra slow, really being firm. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes if there's a lot of tightness in these muscles. They can get really bound up and contracted, and your forearm can kind of slip off. But if you're just kind of have a gentle focus on staying along the muscle, it'll be fine. And again, just starting in with my elbow a little bit more, and even getting into the levator a little bit. Starting to get to the top of that shoulder a little more. And I love moving my hands or my elbows in opposite directions just to stretch out the muscles a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and get into Karina's rotator cuff a little bit. I'm just going to slide your arm. I really like the arm in this position for any type of more detailed work on the rotator cuff. So like any other area, I'm just going to kind of warm everything up. This is a pretty small surface area to be working on, so I'll just use my thumb. And feeling around for any spots that feel extra tight. And I'm going to just start to do a little bit of trigger point in here. The rotator cuff is an excellent place to do trigger point work if you're working on someone that has a lot of stiffness in their shoulders and their upper back. I'm just applying that pressure about 10 seconds and letting go. I'll do this maybe 3 or 4 times if I'm not planning to spend a whole lot of time. And not being mechanical in my work, not thinking like, okay, I have this muscle, like really being intuitive with how I work. I'm always the most effective when I'm, less in my head and more in just how things are feeling. And I'm going to get started on this opposite side with my forearm work. Just working my forearm down the side of the body. This can be really calming as well. Just moving the forearm down. There's a lot of fascial tissue and a lot of smaller muscles that run along the ribs. So it's just really good to kind of get in there with your forearm and your elbow. And I'm going to work my way into the hip a little bit, the low back. And starting with lighter pressure, gradually from my core, moving in deeper. And if there's a spot that feels like it needs trigger point, I'll take note and kind of just hold for maybe 10 seconds. And with trigger point, you can use a distraction technique. If your client is starting to just feel like it's too much, you can do gentle shaking. Can be a really calming for some people, and other people just don't like it as much. So most of my clients really like it. And finally, I'm going to press into this glute a little bit and get into this low back with my elbow, working my elbow along the spine. This is a great way to work the erector muscles, but some people can get really ticklish and don't like it as, the elbows just can feel a little intense. And again, it's really calming if you use the whole forearm. And I love working along the spine with my forearm. It's also easier for me as a therapist working with my forearm. Going nice and slow. Usually this table is actually a little bit high for me. When I say work from your core, it's a lot easier. I'm like 5'5", and it's a lot easier if you're around my height to have a lower table if you want to work from your core. And as I get to higher up on the back, I'm starting to get work more with my elbow and part of my forearm. But the smaller that the surface area you're working with is, the more intense the pressure is going to be. And I'm going to get into these subscap and scaps with a little bit of trigger point. So if I am having a little bit of trouble like feeling where the tightness is, I'll actually just do really small movements up until I get a better idea of what's going on. Alright, so I'm going to just hold for maybe 10 seconds. And not forgetting about the levator. It's difficult getting very deep into the levator in this position, but I'm not too worried about that today. And just doing a little bit of a rotator cuff work. And because it's a small surface area, I'm just going to use my thumb to kind of warm everything up. And finally, just a little bit of trigger point in here, holding. Trigger point is a wonderful form of therapy. So when I release my finger, just blood goes into that muscle, becomes a lot less contracted. I love using trigger point in my work. And just one more. And it's nice to end how you started. For your client, you don't want to just end too abruptly. And that is it for today. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video, and please come back and visit us again.
Many of our subscribers don't see our videos. Make sure that you click the notification bell. And if you haven't already, follow us on social media for tips, tutorials, giveaways, and daily inspiration.
We have over 1,000 videos on Psychetruthpatrons.com, including our premium massage series, extended fashion haul modeling, ASMR massage and back tickling, behind the scenes, and more. Visit Psychetruthpatrons.com today. Our Patreon supporters also gain automatic access to Psychetruthpatrons.com with new exclusive videos each week and over 1,000 videos available now. Click the Patreon symbol in the middle of the screen.